Welcome back for another episode of You've Never Seen It. My mission to never hear these four words again. I am your host, Allison Salamoni, and joining me to discuss 1941's The Maltese Falcon is fellow Humphrey Bogart fan. Along with me, it is the one and only Eric Muller. Did I say your last name right? Because I
You
didn't ask
did.
with you.
Thank you so much. It's spelled wrong in the sheet, but you said it right.
Is it? Did I spell?
You added an extra E. Don't worry. It happens
It's
more
all
often than you
good.
think. It's all good.
We'll just get there. We
One step at a
are
time.
we are nothing if not professional around here. So how I roll, which is why I didn't ask you how to say it before I realized I was about to either fuck it up or say it right.
Hey,
50-50 shot.
hey, I'm impressed you got it. So we're all uphill from here.
That's all that matters. It's like, okay, cool. She's so professional. I love this. Well,
Best podcast experience ever. Right here.
awesome. Right here. This one right here. Great.
This is it.
Well, welcome. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I'm really excited to have you on. I'm really excited that we get to talk. This is the movie that you chose. But before we dive into why you chose this movie, I want you to inform me and all of our tens of listeners and watchers, where did your love of movies come from and start?
Probably for like a lot of us, it comes from a parent. For me, it was my dad. He always talked about the pictures and how they were back in his day. But it's just one of those things. Over time, you just gain more of appreciation. And like the more you watch, the more your knowledge base and experiences expand. Like I was talking to a friend today about like when I saw Dogma for the first time in high school when it was released. I was actually there at a night with a bunch of protesters. So like that experience, and if you ever heard I forget which one of Kevin Smith's autobiographies, he talks about like there's a difference between film and a movie, and like that's like really started my progress towards understanding there's films and there's movies. I still use them interchangeably, but I get what they're talking about.
Yeah. That's so funny. You got to go watch Dogma with protesters. I went to a Catholic church and was sitting in Sunday Mass where the Monsignor of the weekend that movie came out told every single one of us, if you went to go see that movie, we would all be going to hell. And it only made me want to go see it more.
See, the best thing is my dad's a Lutheran pastor, so when he dropped me off, he saw the protesters there, and he like whispers like, "Okay, here's a couple things you can say to them to throw them off,"
Yeah.
and then just go.
We Catholics are very much the most hypocritical people. Granted, again, raised Catholic, not practicing, but I do remember sitting in Sunday Mass getting screamed at, and I'm like, I haven't even gone to see. I'm like, I'm in 8th grade. Like, when am I going to go see this? Like, what? I was like, Mom, can I go see it? She goes, No.
Definitely
watch it at a sleepover.
And then someone's around with the ruler stick. I'm going to get you.
Yeah, exactly. So I had friends who had cooler parents that let them watch these things, and that's where I went for my sleepovers. So now that we talked about that, what is it about when you saw my list? Why was the Maltese Falcon one of the ones that you wanted to come chat with me about?
Because it's like one of those things where it's like you're looking through your list. I'm like, this is one of the most quintessential films on this list. Like this defines the film noir style. There's a reason why everyone keeps saying, I know Maltese Falcon wasn't the first film noir, but it is the one that perfected that formula, that style. Whenever you think of the film noir, the grizzled private eye, the damsel in distress, all that comes from this. And also, it's Humphrey Bogart.
It's Humphrey Bogart. I know, and that was really myself when I saw that, because I went through with this year when I was cleaning up and kind of recompiling my list and like taking out the ones that I've covered and adding new ones to it. I honestly started going through, like, I want to say I started in like the 1940s of like best picture nominees for the Oscars. And this was one of them for 1940, I guess. It
was nominated in 1941.
It was 1941,
so it was the 1942 Oscars.
So it was nominated for one of the nominees for Best Picture. And you would think by now I would have like up the list of what it lost to, but I don't. So we're just going to Google it later because we're
nothing but professional on this.
Nothing but professionals here. And I should have learned from every single one of the episodes beforehand where I banter while I pull up the 1942 Academy Award list. But it was one of those, and I remember with Humphrey Bogart being in, I was like, okay, I just need to watch this. I had no, and the only other Maltese Falcon I know about is the
Mhm.
giant, like super famous sailing yacht that's like
Yeah.
out.
Well, and like the one, because my dad actually has a statue of the Maltese Falcon, so like I grew up looking at this thing
Yeah,
my entire life, and like
that's
trying to
awesome.
go at it with the butter knife, like,
It's
no,
a fake.
it's
Meanwhile, if
fake.
only Sydney, if only the fat man knew that
Right.
you guys had it this whole time. If you could just stayed alive.
Shh. His estate could find out.
But yeah, that's one of the things that I have in my notes is that there's many, many people who say that this is the movie to
Yeah,
solidify film noir as a genre. And
yeah.
one of the things that I love, and not only that is this movie is a debut for a lot of people. It's John Huston's first film that he
Mhm.
directed. It's the it's Sidney Greenstreet's first theatrical role. He's
Right. Talk
did
about hitting the ground running.
right, and then all of a sudden now he's Senor Fiore in Casablanca.
Blanca.
Along you get Peter Lorre is in here. It's just it, and every single time, like when I tell you when you see him in that when you see Humphrey Bogart in his chair in that opening scene
Yeah.
making the cigarette, just like I did in
Right. You just
American.
imagine him with a white coat on.
Yeah, and like just like I did like in American when I was watching American Graffiti and like Harrison Ford finally showed up like as soon as Humphrey Bogart, I'm laying like in my bed watching this and I'm going, there he is.
There it is.
There it is. There he is. It's right there.
Well,
God.
yeah,
What
we
a
talked about this,
cool
like it's that
dude.
essential look. Like when you think of the noir detective, it's Humphrey Bogart.
Yeah. And no one else ever again. Like,
Right.
it can never be. And that's what they even say, like, again, because if it's on Wikipedia, it's
It's
true.
true. Right.
Um, some of the notes that are written about it is like the way that Humphrey Bogart played this character, everyone else who was playing a lot of these actors that
Right.
came
That
in
was the
playing
note.
film noir, that's what they wanted to be like. It even said, like, I think Ingrid Bergman in leading up to filming Casablanca watched Bogart and the Maltese Falcon over and over again to get to know how he does things and how,
Mhm.
his acting style and
His
everything. I just think
mannerisms.
that's so interesting. I wrote a whole paper on Casablanca during college, so I could also talk
Nice.
about that till I'm blue in the face because we have that in common. That's my favorite movie of all time.
That depending on the day, it's either that one or Wally for me. So
Okay, makes sense. I get it. I get it.
yeah.
Um, but before
Some
I
some days are
digress,
a little bit more Casablanca, some days are a little more Wally. You get it.
depend exactly. Do I want a do I
Like, do I
want a
want an
devastating
uplifting
love story?
story with set in space, or do I want to face something that deals with Nazis and the consequences of actions and willing to let go to be selfless?
I know. My favorite I know so everyone's like, "What do you mean your favorite World War II movie is it Indiana Jones?" I'm like, "Have you seen
Seen it?
Casablanca? Have you seen it? You've never seen it? What? How dare you?" Which is really funny coming from
Right.
me to say to anybody. But
How dare I got a podcast. I'm gonna make you sit on it and
I'm gonna
watch.
make you talk about I can't believe I've seen it, but you haven't. It's gonna be like more
A
I keep talking about
spin-off.
the great Patreon tier bonus content. It's how we roll. Um, so getting into kind of the Maltese Falcon, do you remember the first time that you saw this movie?
I was probably like 8 or 9 when I first watched it because it was
That's
on
crazy.
TV, and my dad's just like, "Oh, Maltese Falcon's on TV."
You're like, let's watch it. This is
Because
great.
it's like the mid '90s, so there's only the one TV in the
Yeah.
house.
Yeah, yeah. So you're
Yeah,
stuck watching it. I know.
right,
That's
and you got
exactly how I ended up watching Casablanca is my dad. We were flipping through channels and it was I flipped through Turner Classic and it just started. And my dad literally told me to put the remote down. We're watching this. And I was like, okay, fine, dad. And then I was enthralled. There is no one that can deliver a line like Humphrey Bogart
no,
ever. From
and
like,
I even remember him like. The first time I actually saw Humphrey Bogart was actually in a Looney Tunes episode with him and Bugs
yeah,
Bunny. Like he's himself, and like he's like, "Did you throw lemon meringue pie at me?" And I was like,
yeah.
"Oh." Like I still remember that. It's like only Humphrey Bogart could get away with sounding intimidating, but like, did you throw a pie at me?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. He's just everything he does. Like, even in this movie um, when they bring, Jim Cairo, Peter Lorre
Hmm.
to, O'Shaughnessy's apartment or a hotel room, and at one point, they both stand up and she slaps him, and he goes to, like, hit her back, and Bogey gets in between, and I think the words he says to him is he goes, "When you get slapped, you'll take it and you'll
I
like
actually
it."
wrote that as a note because that scene was so great.
I have it in my notes too.
Because I was like, no one alive today could get away with saying that line. Like others could
No.
try, but it's like because it just rolled off the tongue, and it's just one of those things where it's like it's believable, it's acting, but it's just so good, and just the way he delivered it, it's just like you get slapped and you like and you take it. It's like, yeah, okay, I'm getting slapped for
And
Humphrey
he sits
Bogart.
right back down and look. Humphrey Bogart could slap me anytime he wants, as long as he delivers lines like that. And
Yeah,
I mean, that was one of the biggest things with Casablanca for me was I think one of my favorite lines because it's one of these movies that he's in, people just don't talk like that anymore.
no,
Like the scene in Casablanca when he's at the bar and the one woman goes up to her, she's like, "Where were you last night?" He goes, "It's so far back I can't remember." She goes, "Well, I see you tonight." He goes, "I never planned that far ahead." It's like it's so good, and it's
or
so
my favorite line of his in Casablanca is actually, it's the night after he sees her, he's drinking, and
mhm,
Sam's there, and he's like telling her, "Play it for me." Sam's like, "I
mhm,
can't." He's like, "You could play it for her, you could play it for me." And he's okay.
yeah. Or when she comes in and he looks at her and says, "Tell me, was it Laszlo you left me for, or were there others in between, or are you not the kind to tell?" It like that's the scene I think of when I think of like the ending of the Maltese Falcon. When he's like, "I'm not going to be a sap for you."
Yeah,
When he like starts telling her, "When you're out 20 years, I'll wait for you, but I hope they don't." The way that he like caresses her neck. It's like, "But I hope they don't hang you by that pretty little neck of yours." And you're just like, fuck.
damn.
Like, there was nothing more sensual, but also, oh shit, about all of
Yeah,
it.
it's
So I'm like,
because it's one of those things like because like with movies back then, because they had to be under 2 hours for the most
right.
part, and that's one of my notes. Is like this movie moves fast compared to
So
nowadays.
fast.
But it's just
So fast.
like so you literally had the whirlwind romance between the private eye and the damsel in distress, and it's just like, did he actually truly love her, or was he playing her the same way she was playing him?
Right.
And that whole thing was just like that pretty. I was like,
Yeah.
ooh, it just got cold in here.
It
Yeah,
did do the
gotta get
chills.
another blanket.
You can't just pull it up to your neck. It's so good. And I love the style because again, like when you start researching this movie and how John Huston envisioned everything, he
Mhm,
from the research I did on it, it looks like since this was his first movie and like the first one that he was writing and directing and all of it,
mhm.
he wanted it to be so precise prior to like production starting, wrote out every single camera angle, how he wanted things shot, how he wanted it said, and because they were able to shoot it so quickly and so, like, pretty cheap for that time
Oh
frame,
yeah,
there's very little dialogue that ended up getting cut out, which is crazy because it's such a dialogue heavy movie, right? There's not a whole lot of action. There's a couple people getting shot,
yeah.
but
People getting slapped and punched, but yeah, no, it because when people say, "Hey, in 1940s, hey, we're gonna talk like this and we're gonna talk
yeah,
fast," like you get only like one or two scenes where they actually talk like that. It's like him with the cops. That's how they
mhm,
interact with each other. But everything else, like I said, the pace, even though it's a quick movie, it feels like you're there for the entire. It feels like a longer story because again,
mhm.
because of how he shot it and the way everything is so precise. Like the one shot where he's leaving the fat man's elevator, and
Yeah,
just as he's going down enter the elevator, Peter Lorre enters from the other one.
right. Oh my I when Peter Lorre walked out of the room with Wilmer, right after Bogart gets drugged and he passes out and Wilmer
Mhm.
kicks him in the face, and, like, when he and Lori, like, walked out with the fat man, I very audibly gasped. I went, like, was like it just was like, oh, like, because it's you're hitting that apex of,
Mhm.
like, this is really hitting the fan right now, and you just don't it's one of those movies too, like, there was nothing I didn't catch on and solve it like I usually do with most, like, noir
Mhm.
films or, like, these m
Or
mysteries and
any
everything.
mysteries, like, yeah, like with
Yeah.
Glass Onion, you were probably sitting there going, "I know
I
it."
figured out I mean, I loved Glass Onion, figured
Right.
it out.
Yeah,
I enjoyed Knives Out, figured it
figured
out,
it
and
out.
it's one of those things I'm very big on when I watch a mystery movie, because once you get the twist, my desire to rewatch it
Mhm,
is not there anymore. Like, I don't like, now that I know,
mhm.
depending on what if it's a good movie, I will. But,
Well, I
like, I've
mhm,
not gone back and rewatched Knives Out since the first time I saw it. Not that I disliked it since the first time I saw it.
mhm.
I just haven't really wanted to sit down and rewatch it because I know it's not like it's a different type of knowing the ending, I think is how I kind of look at it. Because like, you're waiting for a twist versus like, gosh, like a Usual Suspects, where, like, the twist was like, "Holy shit," or,
Right.
something like that, like, when you have something like that where it's fun to go back and rewatch in a certain way, for me, certain, like, mysteries, I just don't have that much of a desire to go back and see because the way that it gets I don't know. I I'm weird.
No, no, you're fine. Well, see, for me, I like going back and watching those because I like picking up on the stuff I miss.
Yeah,
Because, certain directors, certain writers, they will drop those hints throughout that you might have missed, first
right.
time, second time, but the third time, you're like, and then, when it's usually me, when I hit it, I hit pause, I get up, and the guy's like, I can't believe.
Yeah. But, like,
Um,
in this case, I want to go back and like,
yeah.
I can't wait to go back and rewatch it when I have, like, some downtime and, like, dig into it even more. I honestly really wanna go back and rewatch The Glass Onion right now because I enjoyed that one over Knives Out, which I'm probably offending all 10 of my listeners, I apologize, but, you
My
know
argument is equal.
there you go. See, look, stay for Eric. Leave get angry at me, stay for Eric. Just get angry at the
So,
woman on the internet. That's how this rolls.
slight. Well, I don't encourage anyone to get mad at a woman online, but no, slight detour. So back when I was part of the BJ Campbell network, I always pitched him. I was like, I want to do my own show. That's kind of like this, I was like, because I've never watched the Fast and the Furious movies. So I was like, so this is a good opportunity to go and watch them. I was like, and I want to call it Reels like the first time. And then when PJ's like, I think that's a good idea. You started posting. I was like, nope, she's perfect. I don't need to do this.
Don't need to do it anymore. That actually is a great name, and I wish I came up with it. This would make sense why Dan gave you the nickname of Clever Eric.
Right. Well, and also my other idea was to get like a really crappy like karaoke version of feels like the first time, and then get Chris Clark to sing reels like the first time.
That's incredible. I'm really upset you didn't do this, but also I'm very glad that
Right.
you
We get to
didn't
do
do
this
it.
instead, and I'm happy with
Exactly.
this.
Exactly. See,
You're
perfect.
better at this than I ever could. You have tens of
Oh,
fans.
you're
I would
so
have
kind.
my
Oh, stop
mom.
it. You are too kind. I keep saying I'm gonna bring my mom on this podcast.
Yeah.
Problem is she doesn't remember shit that we watch. So again, that's
It
an
would have to be
extra
live. It'd have to be like a director's commentary.
it would be or it would also be, are you sure we saw that? Is the is the bonus content. I keep saying if I can get enough people to watch or listen, I'll start a Patreon on Flick and Reel, and part of the tier will be monthly content or every like 3 months, an episode with my mom where I try to convince her that yes, we saw this movie. I'm just gonna go through scene by scene and be like, you don't remember? How about this? No, okay. What
No,
about this scene? This one right here. This
we,
nope.
we
Okay,
were
cool.
literally in the theater together.
I have a picture of the ticket stub from when we went to go see it together. I was like, "Mommy daughter date." Like, they were like, "Nope, nope, okay." But we digress.
We
Back to
digress.
the Maltese Falcon. Um, this so nominated for 3 Academy Awards. Through
Mhm.
this whole time, I still should have pulled it up, and I never did. So we'll go 1942 Academy
The
Awards.
awards.
I always love whenever I go back to um like, looking up all the different, Academy Awards and everything, I love how all the names have, like, changed for some of the categories.
Oh yeah,
Like
like if you look at the actual history of,
yeah.
I remember there used to be like the Oscar for like a rising star for like, first time or,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
child
yeah.
actor. Like if that's a category I'd be okay with you brought back.
Yeah. I think, they used to do one for the Golden Globes. Like, they did,
Yep.
like you would have one for you have, like, art direction for black and white movie, and then art direction for
Color.
movies in color, like, that's I
For the
still can't believe
talkies.
yeah, the talkies. I still can't believe that Citizen Kane lost, but then again, I never saw How Green Was My Valley,
Yeah, I
so
was gonna say I know a lot of people are like, I can't believe Citizen K lost. Did you watch the other one? No.
no, but
I'm in the
again,
same boat.
look at
I've
my
never watched How Green
podcast.
Is Your Valley either.
Like, to be fair, me either, and
Right.
that is why this chaos commences. But
Right.
Sydney Greenstreet was nominated for Best Supporting Role for, an actor, and it
Hmm.
was his, again, first film, right?
Right. Great
And
introduction.
here he is. So it looks like this year, I guess I had to put it on my list, but I guess, like, How Green Was My Valley was, like, the runaway with everything, because Donald Crisp, I don't know who that is, but he won over Sydney Greenstreet. Um, there's a lot.
Okay,
Oh
I
god.
guess we're gonna have to watch How Green Is Your
Guess we're gonna have to watch How Green Is My Valley.
Valley.
Fuck. Who's signing up for it? It's on the list.
I guess I'll do it. We'll both watch it for the first time.
Oh, that was a John Ford movie. Okay.
Oh, that makes a
He
little more
won
sense.
he won Best Director for it. God, I mean, yeah, okay. It's John Ford, I guess he can win. But yeah, so that would be, I think that's who won Best Director. Who won Best Picture though? Is that the year that this won? This is really good banter, and I'm so glad with yeah. So Outstanding Motion Picture went to How
Yep.
Green Was My Valley.
Good for
Over
it.
good for
But you know
good for
what?
John
You know
Ford.
what its living legacy is? It hasn't appeared on You've Never Seen
It
the.
hasn't. So what are you gonna
That's
do
right.
now, motherfuckers? I have had a John Ford movie on here though. I did get to chat with my dad about The Man Who
Yeah,
Shot Liberty Valance. So that was a good time.
that
Um,
was.
and then also, seeing, David Lynch play John Ford at the end of The Fabelmans was quite a treat, I would think. That was my first David Lynch appearance of anything that I
Oh
think I've ever
wow.
seen. So, and then went all in on Mulholland Drive for this show right here. That was
All in.
fantastic. That
Just
was
grabbing the
wild.
cash, just throw it on the table. I'm
So
all
wild.
in.
All in. Just
This is what
real
dreams
deep
are
dive.
made of. Called bringing it back.
I love it. I love it. And we're bracket. That ending, phenomenal. The way
Yes.
that this movie wraps up, every twist, every turn, and everybody getting theirs in the end
Hmm.
is amazing. Like, Wilmer gets away, which is good for him.
Yeah, because he was
Like,
supposed to be the fall guy,
he was
but
supposed to be
he
the fall
gets it.
guy, but he gets away. And then as soon as
Cairo and the
Cairo
Fat Man.
and Fat Man walk out, he immediately calls the cops. He knows where they're going. He's sending them to him. And then he has this big confession with Bridget O'Shaughnessy. And it was icing on the cake. Like, talk about a reveal.
Hmm.
It's wild. And I mean, and I love to, it's one of those things where I felt conflicted watching it
Hmm.
because Sam Spade's not a good guy. He was
Right.
sleeping with his partner's wife,
Right. Like I think that's
right?
something that's like that like goes understood. It's like dude's not a good guy. He is literally sleeping with his buddy's wife. But yet this movie romanticizes being the private eye.
Right, and being skeezy, but you're also rooting for him to not go to jail because you know he didn't kill his partner, even
Right.
though the motive is there for it because he's sleeping with his wife.
Right. Like he was set up. He was set up to be the fall guy, but instead
Right.
he's like him outsmarting everyone's like, nope, I'm gonna get you all at the end.
And the one thing I noticed, I went back and started watching a few clips before we had started recording, and
Mhm.
I kept noticing during certain scenes when he's watching and interrogating these people and talking to them, if he caught on to something, it looked like he would do like this little smile, like the smirk.
Yeah, the
And he was like,
smirk.
and it was always like a quick little, like,
Hmm.
ahead, and it's those little nuances that Humphrey Bogart was so good at and just works so well, and now that I know the ending of this movie,
Right, you can go back and watch
it's
it.
those
Yeah.
little things that he does incredibly well that makes this movie so rewatchable, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, like when he's like, "We're gonna have to rewatch the Maltese Falcons." Oh shucks.
Oh, twist my arm
Why
about
don't
it.
you? Yeah,
Yeah.
I was so excited to watch it because like anytime you get a reason to watch it, yeah, sit down and watch it.
Oh, for
But
sure.
again, it's like some of the little things like I didn't even think about like when I because it's been like a couple years since I last rewatched this,
Mhm.
and like when they have like the old title screen with the Falcon, the Maltese Falcons, my first thought was actually going to the Batman the animated series because that's how they would do the introduction to all
Yeah.
the episodes, like all that paint, and it's like, oh, I see what you guys did. This is
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. And you get that the music hits and it's the perfect beats. I love this era of Hollywood. Like,
Yeah.
this era of film, I absolutely adore, and I feel like I've put a lot of emphasis with this show on this era of film for that reason, because they
Hmm.
just they don't make
Like my
them like
dad
that
says,
anymore.
they don't make pictures like they used to.
They don't. They really don't. Because like, people were everyone was rolling pictures out all over the place. But when you have something that is done this methodically and this well thought out and just moves and paces and is shot literally in almost sequential scene order,
Right. That's
it
unheard of today because
yeah.
it's like, okay, we got to get this here. So we're starting like with page 52 over here. Then we go over to page one in 2 weeks, and then we're counting back to this scene. And you're like, what?
Right, but since they were able to do it in the order for the most part of, like, how it was done, like, they had a few reshoots, but because it went, like, from scene to scene to scene, it was also super helpful for Bogart and Astor and all of them because they're working on the lines as they go,
Right,
and
and
it's
it's
like
also I'm not sure if you've done any acting, but it's there's something about because I do like I've done stage theater, community
mhm,
theater. It's like there's something about like being in that moment, capturing that magic. And when you have like a partner you can work off of, and you can just be able to like in that moment just keep going, just keep bouncing
right,
things off of each other. That is a credit because like nowadays, with most of these like big blockbuster Marvel movies or whatever you say, there's times where the actors aren't even physically in the same room
right.
together.
Right, that was, like, all of, like, the Spider-Man. I think that's what they said with, like, Spider-Man: Homecoming, like, the bunch of the time, like, no one was in the same room together
Hmm.
performing, and it's also I mean, but also at the time, like, COVID and, like, everything else that was also going on, but still, that's kind of been the thing for
Yeah,
these big movies, and they're fun, and everything has a place, but when you wanna talk about genre defining and you wanna talk about, like, where all of these things build from, it's from these classics, and
yeah,
there's a
absolutely.
reason why it's a classic and you keep wanting to revisit it.
Like
Um,
the closest thing I could think of that can compare to the Maltese Falcons is probably the HBO remake of Perry Mason. Like
okay.
that's the closest thing I could think because it's still shot in the noir style, but you still have Perry Mason is the low life private eye. You have his like personal assistant who's like it's always atop of the game,
Mhm.
always thinking ahead of everyone, and you have the damsel in distress, all that. Like that's the closest you could think, like closest property I could think nowadays. That's the closest to it. It's good. It's not great. It's no
Right.
Maltese Falcons, but again, think about like if this were to come out today, like there's no way it would be an hour 45 minutes.
No.
It would
Yeah.
have to be a prestige TV series, and
Right.
the ending, like you talked about earlier, everything was tied up, no loose ends. We were like,
0, and I love that. I
right,
love having a movie that has an end, like, it is clear, it is clean cut. I mean, I don't mind, like, a thinker, like, "Oh, what really did happen?"
right.
But I want I'm a
You want
sucker for
closure?
a good, "This is it.
Yeah,
We're done, there's nothing else left to be said. This is what dreams are made of, the thing dreams are made of," and hand the Falcon off to evidence, and you go and you walk away like you're ready for your next case.
right.
Like, the way he just walks out without a care, he's like, "Deuces, bro." Like, on to the next, like, you just the fact that they didn't waste any time to
Mhm.
take his partner's name off the
Yeah,
door.
like, if you look at it, it's like the span of less than a day just to be like,
The guy's already painting the door, like, redoing the it's off the windows, like, 0 like, he's just Sam Spades like, "Whatever, he's dead." He knew he the fact that he kept saying, like, he knew what he was getting into. Like, he knew this was a
yeah.
possibility.
Well, and also, like, just, like, the great shot of, the sun coming in on their window, you see the logo on the carpet
Mhm.
there, and then, of course, then the next scene is like, "Hey, Archer here, what are you doing,
Yeah,
bro?"
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Um, I love so a lot of the cinematography too, like, I so the guy that their director of photography, this guy Arthur Edison, had
Mhm.
a background that was also with like apparently with like Universal monster films.
Oh.
So which I think really made sense with how some of these angles were shot, right? Like that whole scene where the first time Sam is sitting with the fat man and the way that the camera is angled up to the fat man so he looks
More
just
intimidating,
bigger
yeah.
and
Yeah.
larger, and then it's looking directly on with Sam was one of the coolest shots I think of the movie of this whole film is that scene right there before he like goes back and takes the drink and passes
Yeah.
out. But like that conversation where they're sitting across from each other and the way that they are was almost I mean I would say like breathtaking. Like I was enthralled with how it was being shot and what it was done with it because it was so purposeful.
My favorite shot is actually the one where Sam enters the lobby and Williams, he's read the newspaper and like you see,
Mm,
Bogart goes up to the phone and he goes over, he sees him, moves over next to him. He's just like, so, Williams reading the paper and Bogart's just like pulls up right next to him to the side. And, he's not looking at him, but he's
right.
talking to him and he's talking him down.
Yeah.
Like, you're just some dude, some dumb young New Yorker here in San Francisco. You have
Yeah.
no idea what you got yourself into. And,
And it's such again, you talk about genre defining, right?
yeah.
That's the thing that you see throughout noir films is people sitting catty corner to each other or there's a wall in between or whatever it is to like have that conversation.
Yeah, and it
It's
was just so, and just the way it was shot, I was like, this is my favorite shot in the movie.
it's a good one. That's a really, really good one. God, I loved this whole thing. And then of course this whole it's one of those two words this whole movie is all about like you don't even know like yes it talks about the Maltese Falcon and
Mhm.
everything but you don't know that that's what they're going after like no one actually says the words until it feels
Right,
like
like,
almost an hour into the movie right like
right.
where
Well,
are
you're
we
supposed to
going
be like Sam. It's like, why do they keep mentioning this Maltese Falcon? I don't know what this Maltese Falcon is.
right and then at the end to have it be a fake
Yeah,
and have it not even like the payoff for them is and the
it's also one of those things. Like,
disappointment.
do you think Sam knew it was a fake the entire time, or
Oh, I
he
don't
just got
know.
lucky?
I honestly I think he just got I don't think he knew. I don't think he had no idea what he had. He was either because I think Sam's smart, right?
Yeah,
Much like a Rick is very smart, like a Rick with Castle Rick Blaine is very smart.
yeah,
He knew either way, turning this Falcon in, I was getting paid in
yeah.
some way, shape,
That's
or
the
form.
main motivations to get paid.
Is we're making money. That's all he cares about because he's a skeezy private eye. So he knows he's gonna get paid either way. He's like, "Hey, I will give this to you. I want to get paid and I need a fall guy." So
Yeah,
it's not me because that's the other thing too. He's not just solving this to get paid. He's solving it so
to
he
get
doesn't
out of
go down.
trouble. Yeah,
Yeah. So his motivations are all over the place. So regardless of whether it's real or not, he doesn't care. I don't think he cared. I think he just wanted to get a fall guy and get paid at the end
hmm,
of the day. I think that's where his motivations were. And then when it ended up being fake, he was
right.
like,
Oh, this is just
well,
gravy for me.
it's great. He's like, I may not get, he's like, I still got this money. So I mean, he was like, I'm going to keep this part for my fee. So he still got paid, not as much, but he got his money and he
He gets
got
paid
his justice.
and he gets the ability to get another payday as
Yeah.
opposed to like having to go to jail.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he also gets the answers of who killed his partner and
Yep.
who, taking the fall for everything else. So it's so smart, and how the way that he plays dumb through so much is just they just don't make him like they used to.
No,
Fucking Bogart, man. He's the best.
he
He's the
really was.
best. He really, really is. Another fun fact, again, because it's on Wikipedia, it's true.
Uh,
This was also
100% true.
100% true. But this was also supposedly, or is, one of the first 25 films to be selected by the Library of Congress for their National Film Registry for being culturally, historical, or aesthetically significant. So they have
And
like their whole National Film Registry
right.
that they do. This was one
And he
of the
checked,
first.
yeah, and it
Yeah,
checks every one of those marks.
absolutely. It's
Going back, listening to our conversation on this, it's like, because it's weird, like, we think of this as like, is this classic film, this genre defining film. It wasn't the first one to do it. It was just the
no,
best one to do
it's a
it.
remake.
Yeah.
It was made 10 years prior in 1931 too, but this is the one that everyone's talked about
Right.
for a reason.
Right. It's kind of like, The Wizard of Oz. It's a remake, but
Is
in
it
the
really?
yeah, there was a silent film version of it that's
I
actually
didn't
more
know that.
accurate to the book. And the other thing is also people forget is the Wizard of Oz was a bomb. It's only gained cultural significance over the years, kind of
Oh,
like Maltese. Well, I did the math. Maltese Falcon, like in today's terms, like was made for like about one, it's like under $10 million, and it grossed
yeah,
over 30. So like that would be a success, but no one
yeah,
makes $10 million
yeah.
movies anymore.
Like, I no, God, no. The only one that I mean, Blumhouse is pretty good
Yeah,
about
that's
keeping
the
their stuff
closest.
pretty much under budget. I mean, like, I don't know if you ever saw Upgrade. That movie was made for 5 million,
And
and
there's the
it's
better Venom movie.
the with the broke Tom Hardy, not the real
Yeah,
Tom Hardy.
right. Like when you're like asking your mom, "Hey, I want Tom Hardy," and she goes, "You have Tom Hardy at home," and
We
it's
have
that.
Tom Hardy at home. It's true. It's very. Whew, I'm not crying. You're crying. Oh, that was great.
Where did all these onions come from?
I know. We have Tom Hardy at home. You're Tom Hardy. Here he is. Um, it's yeah.
Add this in
No,
editing. Just a picture of her holding it for
Sean,
that.
right here, right here. We're holding it up. This, and he's keeping all of this in, by the way. So there will be no picture of broke Tom Hardy, but but it's just like I love all the because I also love how old Hollywood did things. Like it and how it was starting to switch over later on down the road, but like how it was, each studio had their actors and this was their contract and they could
Yep.
go on loan to this studio and they would appear in this many pictures, this much, which always makes it fun when you go and like read about casting and how like this is one of those films where like Bogart wasn't the first one to be approached for the movie. The person that they approached turned it down because he didn't want to work with a new director and had it in his contract that he doesn't do remakes. And it's like it's that whole like because technically this is a remake. It's that whole age old thing of like how would this movie had differed if it was George Raft versus Humphrey Bogart? It's
We
like the
probably wouldn't be
whole
sitting here talking about it. We'd be probably talking about
probably
one of the
not.
other movies on your list.
100%. It's like, and I always love thinking about that. Like, one of my favorite, like, modern day versions of it is that La La Land was technically supposed to be Miles Teller and Emma
Yep.
Watson and not Ryan Gosling and Emma
Emma
Stone.
Stone.
And I just don't, and you just think about it, like, I could not see that working, like, at
Or
all.
or like the other one just from this past year where Austin Butler was originally supposed to be Rooster and Miles Teller was supposed to be Elvis.
Shut up.
Yeah, they were supposed to, and like
Oh,
fate happened and he got the roles that they were better matched for.
this is very true. Either way, I still got abs shimmying on the beach in an absurd,
Yeah,
like unnecessary game of sport in
right.
a Top Gun movie. In for the
Again,
second for again, again. It's
it's
like
poetry. It's supposed to
what
rhyme.
what a year for a film.
As Al Pacino said in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it's I love those pictures.
Yeah.
What a great film,
What a year to be alive for film. It's back. Film's back, baby.
baby. It was down for the math, but it came back. But no, like, because like if you think about like how Hollywood's done today, it's not about the movie stars anymore, which is weird to think about because like you
Yeah,
need the actors, you need to sell them. It's about like the deals now that are exclusive. It's for the writers, directors. It's the people who can create the things like Netflix signing Ryan Johnson to the exclusive contract to have Knives Out, or
right.
HBO signing the guy who's making The Last of Us and Chernobyl. Like, no, whatever you think of, we will throw money at you.
Yeah. Oh,
Like, it's not
yeah.
about like getting actors into these contracts. Like, I know Channing Tatum always complains about GI Joe because he got stuck doing it because of one of those deals. Like, he's like, I
Yeah.
don't want it. I don't want to do it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah,
But
yeah.
like, yeah, back in the 40s, it was about like, who can we get to sell this picture?
Right. Absolutely. I just think it's so funny that, like, again, according to the Bible Wikipedia, that George Rapp, this wasn't like the first movie that I guess he turned down that ended up being classics. So I don't know what else he's turned down, but Bogart was just, I mean, that's who he plays.
Yeah,
He's grimy and he's New York and he's just, oh, he's so good.
you
It's
bet. You
so
wonder
good.
if George was on his deathbed and they're like, hey, do you regret not doing Maltese? Yeah, I'm good with it.
Fine.
I
Um,
don't do first time directors.
I don't do first time directors. Uh, but then of course, and then of course you have people like Green Street. Theatrical debut was known for being on stage.
Mm.
He was 61 at the time that he got cast
You hear
in
that,
this
kids? Don't
movie.
give up on your dreams. He was
Never give
61
up.
when he.
He was 61. He was 61. And what's so funny is like it's not even his acting ability that impressed Houston to like put him in the role. It's the fact that he was fat.
Yeah.
That he was like between 280 and like 300 something pounds.
Well, it's also
And
one of those things where he was a fat guy, but he wasn't a funny fat guy. Because like
right,
it would have been an old vaudeville act just to be like, "Hey, we got the fat guy who falls down." And it's like,
right.
no,
No,
this
we actually have the fat man who is
is a
fat and
serious actor,
scary
and he is intimidating.
as fuck. He's so intimidating. That whole scene where he's Bogart's back at his at
At his
the
apartment.
apartment and he just comes and he sits closer to him and like he goes from sitting far away, now he's sitting closer to him and he's poured him a drink and he's handed it to him and he's doing that lean with like the hand on the back of the chair as he's staring right at him and just like telling him, he's like, what can I tell you about the Falcon? And he's going through this romantic
Yeah, he's going through like
monologue.
it's an exposition dump, but you're like you're hooked. You're intrigued
And
by.
then you realize it's all because he was drugging Bogart and was waiting for him to just pass out. And it's just like, and that's, he keeps throwing these numbers and we'll give you 25, thousand for this. And then
Right,
another
and
one
it's
with
like,
this when it sells and like just going
or
on
here's
about all
this
these things.
offer, or we could do this offer instead.
Right.
And you're
Right.
like,
And
man, this
then,
fat guy's got it all covered. It's like, oh no, he's just drawing him out. He knows how to hook and bait him with money.
right. And because he's drugged him and he's passed out. And then Wilmer comes in and just kicks him in the face.
Mm.
Like, just, oh, you're like, oh, what a dick move. And again, I love how good Bogart sells things. Like he wakes up and the first thing he's doing is touching the side of his face where he got
Right.
kicked. So he's like, what happened? Like that's where he's putting the cold water and
Well, it's also one of those things like, was makeup that good in the 1940s, or did he seriously kick him in the head and he had that
right.
welt? Humphrey had
Exactly.
words afterwards.
Oh my God. How dare you kick Humphrey Bogart, sir? Um
Sir.
I so looking back at, I know we've kind of talked about like a lot of the different things and scenes and moments, but if you had to encapsulate like your top 3 moments from this movie, like what would they don't have to be like in order, but like what would
Okay.
they be?
Well, number one is obviously Sam's introduction because it's just legendary. Like you mentioned earlier, just him sitting in the chair, rolling the cigarette. The
Yeah.
secretary walks in. It's just like their banter is so good.
He's like, "You want to see her? She's a knockout." Like she
Yeah,
knows. She knows who her boss is.
right. And
She's probably slept with him. She knows.
I also think she got the job, but you know what? She's okay with that.
Right. She is, absolutely. Steady work.
It's steady work, and this guy knows it is good at his job,
Yeah. Yeah.
and his job is getting money.
Exactly. So she's always
Uh,
gonna be paid.
yep. Second favorite moment's like the reveal of the Maltese Falcons because it's because they've been building it up this entire film, and you
Mhm.
get the package, you get the newspaper, and just the slow reveal
Yeah.
of everything. And then finally, the third one's like the one that I mentioned earlier. The corner shot of in the lobby. Him like talking to him but not looking at him.
Yeah.
Those are my
Oh, for
top three
sure.
moments.
For sure. Um, gosh, see, now that you mentioned, like, just even, like, the way that he just, like, pulls the tobacco bag, that's so fucking good. It's
Right?
so good. But I still think I love the entire dialogue scene with when he's making Miles the fall guy. Like,
Oh
that
yeah, that whole
conversation, and, like,
exchange.
he at one point, like, Green he's like, "And I know you're looking at me and you don't want to, but" and, like, just goes through this whole thing and just watching as, like, Cairo and Green Street start really agreeing with him,
Right,
and
the slow turn of them going, "Yeah, he's got a very good point."
yeah, and the way that they knock him out and, like, lay him on the couch, like, "Sorry, man, like, you gotta go. You're going down for it. Like, someone has to, it's gonna be you." And just, like, the way that, like, all of these people are just skeezy human beings, but
Right, it's one of those things like,
you're
you're
cheering
glad
for
they
the
found each
lesser
other.
of the yeah, and it's like you're cheering of, like, the lesser of 4 evils. Like, you want the private eye to solve the case, but you're also like, "God, you're so" I to be honest, I forgot how much of a piece of shit he was until the movie ended, and I was like, "No, he was also a piece of shit."
Right, like,
Like, the way
they're
he talked about Miles's wife, like, the way that he talked about her widow, and he was like, "I should have ended that a long time ago, and now here we are." And, like
right, like, the only good person in this entire movie gets shot 5 minutes in, and that's his partner.
right, and that's his partner. And, like,
And he was
when
a little skeezy too, where he's just like, "Look at this hot woman. Maybe I should go after her.
yeah,
I talked to her first."
yeah. Or, like, at one point, like, you see he's leaning in to, like, start, like, making out with her, and they're probably gonna do it, and
Yeah,
he looks up and looks out the window, and there's Wilmer staring up at her hotel window.
yeah.
And, like, he's just oh, he's such a skis, but I love him so
Oh, I
much.
remember there was one moment where, like, he, like, just grabs her and kisses her, like, because
Yeah.
you do that in the 1940s, and I was just
That's
like, he is so problematic."
so you can't you're not if you're like you said, if you're remaking this in this day and age, it's a whole 'nother thing. It's a whole 'nother you're getting, like, the Sam Spade, like, it's like Columbo, but
No,
where
I
it's a
mean, you
new
could do it.
mystery.
No, you could do it, but the thing is, like, everyone's gonna hate him.
Everyone's gonna hate him. Sam is the epitome of the Me Too movement
Yeah.
in 1940.
Yeah, if the Me Too movement started in 1942, Sam is canceled.
Sam would have been
He's
done. Sam
done.
so canceled.
He would have to go to Istanbul with the fat man.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that whole just dialogue of, like, explaining why this is our fall guy and putting on Wilmer,
Yeah,
absolutely
great.
fantastic. Um I love watching Peter Lorre get slapped and he's like when Sam gets in between, he goes, "This is the second time you've put hands on me."
Yeah,
And he just goes, "This when you get slapped, you'll take it and you like it."
like
And just like which then it's one of the things that I love too that this movie does is it's very realistic with knocking people out and then
yeah.
bringing them back too.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's not like other movies where like people are knocked out for forever and then they're done and they're out. It's like like when he first meets
Slowly regain
Laurie,
conscience.
yeah, and he knocks him out and starts going through his stuff, and like as he's finishing going through his stuff, Laurie comes like he's coming around.
Well, I
Wilmer
also
starts
love the
coming
whole
around.
like the first exchange between the two of them where he's like laughing at him when he's like,
Yeah,
"You need to put your hands." It's just like, come on,
yeah,
seriously?
yeah, oh my god, or the way when Bogey disarms Wilmer and like takes
Yeah,
both of the
the
guns out.
rogue,
Like,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
lowers the jacket, takes the guns.
so good. It's just so good. And then I
Like,
think that the
mhm.
reveal at the end with Miles and like that whole scene is one of the best
Oh yeah,
reveals of like one of the best mystery reveals ever, like, with the ending, and he's very clearly known this whole entire time.
Oh yeah, he
Like,
never
up
believed the story about like the sister's husband, like
right.
Thornsberry or I forget
Yeah.
the like he's probably like
Thursby.
Thursby.
These
He's like
yeah.
yeah, he's like one of the best characters you never see because
You never see
see
him.
right
But this
like
whole movie is based on this
right.
guy.
And
It's
again, if it was made
crazy.
today, like there would have to be a Thornsberry. Like you would have to see who he is because people couldn't fill in the blanks.
No, we don't fill in the blanks there. We don't have an imagination. We've been
Nope,
so numbed to
have an imagination.
and and that's why nobody reads anymore because we can't see
Right,
things in our
and this was
mind.
based on a book, folks.
I know that's even crazy. I forgot about that. Um, it's just it's so good. Everything about it works. Every moment, every line. I love when a movie is done with everything is done with intention, right? Like,
Yeah,
there's a lot of movies out there right now, there's a lot of filler, there's a lot of, like, we have the like, I can't tell you how many times I've walked out there and be like, "That movie was good, but I didn't
but
need XYZ scene. I
or
didn't
like you've
need"
walked out of it, you're like, okay, you easily could have cut 15 minutes out of this film.
100%. This one is I was riveted the entire time. Everything felt so purposeful, and there
Well, yeah,
wasn't
and it's like one of those things like, people would be like, I want more. It's like, what could you possibly add to this movie? It was
right,
it's shot this way. It's shot to be perfect like this. Because if you add something, it's like I mentioned earlier, you elongate. It's like then that's when you get your filler. That's when you get like
right.
pointless scenes. But like
I don't need to see
everything,
them going
right?
down to the Paloma and setting it on fire and doing that whole thing, like, I don't need to see that part of it.
I don't
Watching
need to see
Jacoby
the salty
walk
sea
in.
captain get shot before he
Right.
walks into the office. It's just you just believe it. At first, I thought the secretary shot him,
Yeah,
and I would
100%.
believe that.
I was like, "Effie, you bitch, it's you the whole time." Uh God damn it. Also, again, another little fun fact I did on my research. The actress that played Effie was originally lined up to play Bridget. Like, they had her in mind for that role, but then they ended up giving her the role of Effie. And again, could not see her doing the other thing because she was too light and bubbly and fun
Yeah,
and like that's for a movie that's actually really serious, that's your comic relief.
yeah, she's the
Like,
kind of, and also I think she has a better chemistry with Bogart
mhm,
because, and I don't think that would have worked if it was more serious. Like I can't
no.
imagine him like for being like, tell me you love me or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mm.
Yeah. No, for sure. But this was I love a good, quick, just fast paced. I don't want to say like fun watch, but it is a fun watch. Like, it's fun from
Yeah.
start to finish because it's so like it sets good tension and suspense, and you just want
It's a
to
credit to the storytelling because like
yeah,
it doesn't have to be lighthearted to be a fun watch. It's if you have a good story and you're telling it well, which I know nowadays it's hard to believe that you could do this. You if you do that, if you execute those things, everything just runs smoothly. And that's why,
yeah,
like, yeah, it's an hour and 43 minutes. You can watch it, and not even think about that because you're so intrigued. You're invested in the story.
right.
Even if you know the twist, even if you know it's not the real Maltese Falcon, you are invested. Like, what is Sam's end game? Is
Mhm.
really the mystery of this movie. It's not who has the package, who's the fat man. It's what's Sam going to do to get out of this?
Right. How is he gonna save his own ass? And I think his reaction to the Falcon being fake
Oh, was
is one of the best reactions of that movie where he's just like, "Huh, sucks to suck."
right.
Like,
Sucks to be
he's
you.
not mad. Like, he's like, "Whatever, let's figure out the rest of this mystery." But
Let me
looking
count my money.
yeah, exactly. But how Green Street and Lori react to it and, like, how they're just
Right. It's they're devastated. They're shocked. They thought like, like we mentioned Indiana Jones earlier. This is the last crusade. Like they thought they had the Holy Grail.
yeah.
Nope.
You chose poorly.
Holy.
Is what happened there. Um, it's so funny to watching and listening to Lori too saying, so and so, you clearly he realized how much it was back in Istanbul because you kept talking about it or asking about it. Like, it's just, uh perfect cinema, one of the best. I was probably for like out of everything that I have seen, probably one of the, and it could be a recency bias. I don't think it is one of the best movie endings of all time. That
Oh
I
yeah.
like it's gonna be like in my top 10 list of like best movie endings ever.
Right, guys. Like I know it's everything you've been looking for. It's the solid mystery. It's the solving everything, no loose ends, and you just get that great shot of him like handing it over to the cops as he walks down the stairs,
Zero, because he doesn't
smirking.
care. He does
Yeah,
not give a shit about finding this. Like, he does not care. Like, all these people obsessed with this with riches and gold and just does not care. And I
right.
think
He
that's
just needs enough money to keep going to the next week, next
yeah,
month.
it's wild. Oh, it's so good. So I think with that, talking about the ending, this is a great time to go into my letterboxed and rate it as we do every episode out
Right.
of 5 stars.
Hmm.
So let's go. Let me, if I can remember how to work letterboxed, which I do. Um,
Hooray!
hooray! Here we go. Maltese Falcon, John Huston. Um, this is a absolute 5 star film. No
Five
ifs, ands,
star.
or buts.
Yeah,
It's
no.
5 stars. It's probably as because I'm making another list my of the 2023 movies.
Mhm.
Um, on again like ranking all of
Yeah,
them.
like you did last year. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Right now, Back to School is in first place, followed by You've Got Mail, then Cliffhanger. Uh, this might even knock Back to School into second place. Like, this might be my number one. I got to think on it for another day or so. I don't want
Right.
to
You,
like
you don't want to
jump
go the
the
full
gun,
recently bias. Yeah, I
but
get that.
I really do think that this is my new number one so far and if this is honestly with all of these episodes so far, if this is any indication of like what I mean, granted, I know what I got coming up, and it's not an indication of how the rest of the year with this podcast is gonna go because I
What
already
you
know.
mean to tell me you don't expect Money Plane to be the new number one movie?
coming coming soon. This is gonna be my new number one when that happens. Still so blind. I have no idea. So if you guys are leaving comments or anything, do not say anything about Money Plane. I know that Kelsey Grammer is in it. I know that Edge, aka Adam Coleman, is in it, and that is it. I don't know who directed it. I don't know jack shit about it, and I don't want to know. So don't ruin it for me.
I forget how I found out about it. I just know I think it was the Honest trailer, and I was just like, I have to watch this film. I
There you
have
go.
I have to, and it was on Hulu, so I was like, I'm not paying
It's
for it.
happening.
I have to watch.
It's perfect. Well, before we fully sign off here, Eric, why don't you
Mhm.
let everyone know where they can find you if you got anything going on?
You can find me on Twitter at handsome_cheese. I'm like the lone wolf of film Twitter. It seems like I just go roam where I need to, comment where I need to, and I don't really have a home, so no real projects. But if you're always looking for a voice, to someone to talk to, I'm always here for you.
Love it. And to all of you who are either watching or listening, thank you so much. Please be sure to
Thank
hit
you.
that subscribe button right here on Flick and Reel to subscribe to our channel so you can see episodes of this, as well as all of our trailer reactions, reviews, our Friday night speakeasy. Lots of fun stuff coming down the pike. Be sure to hit that like button as well. It really helps with the algorithm and getting
Hmm.
people to see the show. Leave a comment as well. Let me know your thoughts on this movie and on any of the other episodes so far. You can, if you're listening on what your audio platform of choice, please make sure you've also subscribed, rate, and reviewed. You can follow the show on Twitter at NeverSeenItFNR. You can follow me as well at Allison Salamoni on Twitter. And until next time, my friends, be safe. I'm just going to go watch some more movies. See ya.
Slap that like button like you're Humphrey Bogart slapping Lori. Like it.
And you'll like it.
You'll like
Bye,
it.
guys.